Meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee will come to order. We have 9 nominees listed on the agenda for the first time today. They'll be held over and receive a vote next week. They are Dana Douglas for the 5th Circuit, Brad Garcia for the D.C. Circuit, Francis Beam for the Eastern District of Michigan, Jerry Blackwell for the District of Minnesota, and Ann Nardacci for the Northern District of New York. We have 2 nominees to the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board. I'm told that is now known as PCLOB, and 2 U.S. Marshal nominees who will receive a vote today. Finally, we have 2 bipartisan bills on the agenda. The Speak Out Act, sponsored by Senators Gillibrand and Blackburn and co-sponsored by Senators Hirono, Graham, Blumenthal, Portman, and myself, is going to be held over for another week to allow bipartisan negotiations to continue. We will consider the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act, sponsored by Senators Klobuchar and Kennedy, and co-sponsored by 12 other senators, including from this committee, Booker, Whitehouse, Graham, Feinstein, Hirono, Blumenthal, and myself. Before I turn to Ranking Member Grassley, let me briefly address the continued violence and threats of violence that members of federal law enforcement and the judiciary have faced since the FBI executed a judicially issued search warrant at former President Trump's residence on August the 8th. Following the search, the former president and his allies have relentlessly criticized the FBI with baseless claims and violent rhetoric. Some members of Congress have been called on to, quote, defund the FBI, destroy the FBI. Others have referred to the FBI as the Gestapo. The former president called FBI officials, quote, vicious monsters, close quote. It's time for these attacks to stop. We've been reminded over and over again of the vulnerability of those who are in service to this nation and to this Congress, of violent threats and violent conduct. We have tried uniformly to condemn them on a bipartisan basis and should continue to. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have warned of an increase in violent threats and acts of violence against federal law enforcement officials and facilities following the FBI's August 8th search. These include threats to place a dirty bomb outside the FBI headquarters and online calls for civil war and armed rebellion. On August the 11th, a man wearing body armor and armed with an AR-15 assault rifle and a nail gun attempted to breach the FBI's Cincinnati field office. On August 16th, the man was indicted for threatening to murder everyone at the FBI, from Director Wray to agents, even custodial staff. FBI is not alone in receiving these vile threats. The magistrate judge who approved the search warrant has been subjected to a torrent of violent and anti-Semitic threats. A synagogue on whose board the judge serves canceled services because of these threats. As I've said many times, political violence and threats of violence in furtherance of any cause is unacceptable. I commend to you to read the horrifying article in the Washington Post this morning about one of our colleagues in the House and what she has been put through with threats at her home. We must condemn the growing use of violence for political grievance and not fan the flames of hate ourselves. I renew my call for the Senate to pass the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act, a bill that would protect our federal judges and that has been held up by one Republican senator on the floor for months. We passed this bill at a committee in December. We need to get it passed on the floor. With that, let me turn to Senator Grassley, and after that, we'll vote on the PCLOB and Marshall nominees before turning to the legislation of the moment. Senator Grassley.